Hey, good afternoon, Crime Crunchies. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I am Courtney C., your host for Crime Crunchies. I have a 27-year-long career in the media, and now I get to do Crime Crunchies. So happy to have everybody here. It's a beautiful Sunday. Hopefully it is where you are as well. And we are going to go ahead and get started. But before, if you could please make sure to subscribe. It is free. I am a newer channel and I'm trying to get to 10,000 subby wubbies. So if you can subscribe, like, comment, share, all that good stuff, I super appreciate it. So, oh my gosh, we are on day 36 of Nancy Guthrie. And yes, the news has slowed down a little bit, but and I don't have a PowerPoint plan for today, nothing really fancy, but I wanted to kind of talk about where we are right now. And as everybody is probably very well aware, it's kind of the dog days of the investigation. I'm sure that, like, Savannah has gone back to New York. I'm sure that her brother Cameron has gone back to where he lives, and may even be looking at hopefully going back to work. I don't know what's happening with Annie, and I'm not sure if she's been able to return to her home. But honestly, I feel like the best and healthiest thing that the Guthries could do is honestly try to go back to some semblance. They're sitting around thinking, immersed, covered in, the hell that they're going through right now, the terror that they've gone through. They've been through something enormously traumatic in their lives. I hope that they're all getting some sort of therapy or counseling. This is going to take them a while to get over. And, they may even be walking through their regular days. They may be extra alert. They may be untrusting. They've had a sense of violation that hopefully nobody ever has to go through. Unfortunately, people have had to go through it. And really, I think that we're all just really invested in this story because I think everybody is on Team Nancy and really just wants her to come home, and for the Guthrie family to have answers at this point, just get some answers. And, for me, myself, this whole case doesn't make sense. There's so many mixed messages. I'm not going to get into the sheriff anymore because I really do feel like everybody in law enforcement is doing the best job that they can. I'm sure that there isn't anybody on the FBI, the task force, on the Pima County Sheriff's that doesn't want to find Nancy. And, I think that we all need to just really support them and the family. And the family's cleared, and we all need to move on from that, even though it does make for some good drama to continue to think about the family. That's just not where the evidence is leading anybody. Because if it was the family, they would have made a move, I believe. So I wanted to just kind of see what the latest was, and there is some interesting news. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And please, I love it when you guys comment and we can interact. I love my little crunchies. Let me put this on the screen here. I'm going to go to this story first because this is literally, I think, like an hour old. March 8th, 11:51 a.m. Woman's body found near Phoenix Canal raises questions in Nancy Guthrie search. And I'm definitely not even speculating that this is Nancy, but I think that everybody has been, with Glovegate, I think people are grasping at straws because they're wanting to get some sort of answers. And I think that the desperation with the glove and the DNA of the glove and all the gloves that were found and the SWAT raids, people are just, I think that they're genuinely wanting to get this solved and get Nancy back. And so we're desperate. We're desperate for anything. So I did want to mention this. Again, I'm going to guess it's not connected. I'm not suggesting that it is, but I'll go ahead and read this. It's on the New York Post, and this is just as of about an hour ago. A woman was found unalive along a canal in Phoenix, prompting speculation over a possible connection to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. The remains were found Friday, more than 100 miles from Tucson, where the 84-year-old matriarch went missing February 1st. Details on the call indicated that an adult female was on the nearby canal bank and was unresponsive. So that already tells me that it's probably not Nancy, because at this point, a month in, it wouldn't just be an adult female unresponsive. It would be like remains in a not nice condition. The police said in a statement, when officers arrived, they located the woman, who was ultimately pronounced unalive, at the scene. And then here's that canal. And there's actually been, if this is the main canal going through Phoenix, there's actually been some other red rums that happen along the canal. And I don't know if they solved one. I'm not going to go into that now. I'd have to really look it up. But there have been some other, I don't know if it makes sense for people to dump along the canal. Police have yet to release any identifying information about the woman they found, but the Pima County Sheriff's Department said in a statement to Fox News Digital that they have not been alerted that there's any connection to the Guthrie case. The slow pace of the investigation has frustrated Guthrie's loved ones, including her daughter, Today host Savannah Guthrie, who has offered a $1 million cash reward for information leading to her safe return or recovery. And then the rest of it, I'm sure that we're all familiar with. So, oh, here's baby Billy. Hi, baby Billy. So I'm going to guess that, again, people are really desperate for any news in this case. We're all very invested in getting, some answers, some closure. And I think we're just desperate to find out anything that could actually have, some teeth in it, some meat on the bone. So while this person, it looks like an adult female, was found near a canal in Phoenix, there could be a myriad of reasons. And I'm pretty sure that it's not Nancy Guthrie, but again, it's newsworthy because this is just such a high stakes storyline. The only thing that I would imagine, that if a body was found near the canal at this point, 36 days in, and that the person was obviously in reasonable enough shape that they were able to identify it as an adult female, and it wasn't in great decomposition, and that the call was unresponsive. I mean, the only way that this would be Nancy is if somebody who had taken her had actually kept her at a location for a while, and that she passed recently. That's the only way that this situation could even possibly match. So, and I don't think that anybody thinks that that is the case. But at least people are on it and they're looking, which is good. Even though Phoenix is 100 miles away from Tucson, it's great that they're looking. I'm sorry for whoever they did find along the canal. It's horrible, and I hope that they can make sense of that story. But I'm pretty sure this is not Miss Nancy. So let's take a look. This was an interesting story I ran across on News Nation about how the Nancy Guthrie search has really highlighted some other missing cases, unsolved missing cases. And I'm pretty sure if you're a current true crimer and in the space, you're going to know this one. We are going to watch this segment about Amy, the brother of Amy Bradley. So let's turn this on.
Amy Bradley is missing. Brad, thank you for being with us. You and I have talked before about your sister's case, and as I've talked to so many families of missing people, there is the agony of the unknown, not knowing if Amy is alive and still with us. And in the Guthrie family's case, Savannah not knowing if her mom is still alive. Talk about the hardship of the unknown in cases like yours and so many others.
Good morning, Marty. Good to talk to you again, and thanks for having me. Yeah, it's awful. The unknown, in the initial weeks following Amy's disappearance, I can't even describe what that was like. It was an absolute nightmare. You can't eat, you can't sleep, lots of anxiety, fear, and loss of focus, and it's a hard thing, obviously. And I hope and pray that Miss Guthrie is found alive and returned home safe. After we're coming up a month away from 28 years from Amy's disappearance, and we continue to hope against hope, as Savannah said just a few minutes ago in that clip. The hope doesn't go away, as unrealistic, as it may be to some people, that it's possible that she's still alive and still out there. Fortunately for the Guthries, it's only been a little over 3 weeks, or maybe we're into the 4th week now. But I think there's still a good chance that she can be found, and hopefully she's still with us.
Yeah, and they have a lot of evidence in the Guthrie case as well, Brad. One thing that happened, one of the developments, was clearing the Guthrie family, and they do that in all missing cases. No one is cleared as a suspect until a certain point. And I'm sure that happened in your case as well, with Amy being questioned by authorities. How difficult was that process, and what did it look like for a family member of a missing person in the midst of such chaos?
I mean, it was chaotic, like you say. I mean, it wasn't a big deal for us. Obviously we had nothing to hide. We were frustrated by the apparent, focus on us rather than focusing on, who actually had, may have had something to do with what happened to Amy. But we took it, in stride, and understood that it was normal. We were all interviewed separately and polygraphed separately and all that kind of thing. And, and obviously wasn't a problem, but it's a hard thing, and it's a necessary thing, but it's it takes focus away from what's important in the investigation in the early stages, I believe, too.
Yeah, and a big development, offering $1 million reward. That's a lot of money. The family is working with the FBI right now, as I know yours has through Amy's disappearance. The thing that does, Brad, is they get thousands of new tips. They already have 700 new tips, and it feels as though they got just as many theories about what happened to Nancy. How difficult is it to handle all that attention with so many tips coming in? Your case got renewed attention after that Netflix documentary.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's a lot. We've got a small team of people. I'm not privy to what the FBI does or how much work that they've put into this. In a recent meeting we've had with them, they ran through several leads that they've looked into and chased down and ruled out and so forth. But, the reward, that you see in Amy's case is $25,000. That reward, unfortunately, has remained stagnant despite our request to raise it. There's a fine line, between what it might take to incentivize a person with information to come forward, or worrying about, bringing the crazies out of the woodwork if you make the reward too much. We've seen that in our experience in the past. There was previously a $250,000 reward from a benefactor who has since passed, so that reward is no longer available in Amy's case. But we saw when that reward was instituted what it brought about, and a lot of false leads and misinformation, and people just, I don't know what people think sometimes, but I understand why they may have wanted Savannah to withhold the $1 million offer. Obviously, I surely wish my family had that amount of money to offer, and obviously we would do that. But the problem that I see currently is the lack of some sort of equitable standard as it comes to reward determinations or media attention, as it were, or the allocation of federal resources.
When Jane's teacher told me she was struggling with multiplication, I stayed up for hours.
Have a commercial. That's what we do. This is really interesting. Hopefully I can get back to this article. this is really interesting, and I hadn't thought about that. But he raises, this is Brad Bradley on this segment that we were just looking at, the brother of Amy Bradley, and I mean that's a really good point. I mean, the Amy Bradley story, he just mentioned that it's been 28 years since Amy Bradley went missing, and I mean, just horrible situation. And they do have hope. They didn't have any evidence. There was no evidence. There was no cameras. They didn't have anything. But there's, perhaps hope that she could still be out there. But the FBI offering did he say $25,000? That is not equitable at all, and I think that maybe if times were different, the Netflix documentary came out a year or two ago on Amy Bradley, but considering that this is, an 84-year-old woman who potentially had been kidnapped, and the fact that Savannah Guthrie, I definitely think that has a lot to do with the fact that the FBI did raise their reward to $100,000. This is actually a great point to maybe put some pressure on the FBI to raise the reward on Amy Bradley, because there are people who know what happened to Amy Bradley. And even if she isn't alive, I think at this point, the family, again, is just wanting some answers. So, I mean, this is really interesting to hear from Brad Bradley. And I love that Amy Bradley's story did get that Netflix documentary. I watch a lot of true crime documentaries, so I had heard of that case before the Netflix documentary came out, but it was a really good documentary and talking about what happened with the Bradley family. And I'll just read this line here. Brad Bradley, who we just saw, whose sister Amy went missing during a 1998 family cruise. I mean, imagine being on a cruise and having your sister go missing like day 2, day 3, and having to get on a boat and leave. They, of course, didn't. They stayed, and even Brad Bradley's father, he was there on a work reward cruise, and even his father's boss at the company he worked for stayed and helped search. They were on their own in a different country, and they had to wait for the FBI to come. And while they were waiting for the FBI to come, the FBI joined them at the boat at the next stop. And between that time, the room had been cleaned. So if there was any DNA, which in 1998, there wasn't a lot of DNA. If there had been any DNA, it could have been cleaned up and things were rearranged. And, the cruise line is going to look out for the cruise line. And there are a lot of things that the cruise line didn't do or did do that definitely were in its favor and did not help them find Amy Bradley. So, this is just another case. I can't imagine. I mean, like Brad mentioned, you can't eat, you can't sleep. I mean, you're physically sick with worry and fear. You're paralyzed. It's a physical reaction when something traumatic happens to you, unfortunately. So let me see if I don't know that I can get back to that article. We had this little commercial going, but I thought that was a really, really good article or segment to cover. So let me go to the BBC, and these are all stories from today and updated because, again, I'm looking for any latest updates for Nancy. Unanswered questions as search for Nancy Guthrie enters a new month. Let me just read this and see what they have to say. It's been more than a month since the mysterious disappearance of Nancy Guthrie captivated the nation. Well, it still captivated the nation. Yeah, we're still there. And yet more questions and answers remain. Ain't that the truth? In a case that feels ripped from a true crime novel, the 84-year-old mother of U.S. television presenter Savannah Guthrie is believed to have been taken in the dark of night from her bed, her daughter said, after last being seen on January 31st. The shocking disappearance of the religious mother of 3 has turned her small suburb in Tucson, Arizona into a media circus and prompted more than 3,000 tips to police. tearful pleas from her famous daughter, cryptic ransom notes, Bitcoin demands, and widespread speculation from online sleuths. That's for sure. This has had it all. There isn't anything this hasn't had. But each potential break in the case, including photos of the suspected kidnapper and DNA testing of gloves found near the scene, seems to lead to a dead end with no arrests or even a named suspect. So what we know. Officials said early on that drops of the matriarch's blood were on the doorstep of her home and believe her suspected captor, a masked, glove-wearing man who I like to call the Walmart Wrangler, took the front door camera that revealed his brief appearance, but those twists and turns have slowed to a trickle with few recent big developments. Meanwhile, headlines have moved on to other subjects, including the war with Iran and the continued fallout from files related to offender Jeffrey Epstein. If there's nothing to report, nobody's going to watch after a while. Content creator Melinda Long, a health and wellness influencer from Long Island, New York, told the BBC. Long, who has joined so-called mom detectives who post videos on social media about true crime cases, has been invested in the disappearance because her own mother is close to Nancy Guthrie's age. And I definitely can feel for that. My mother lived with me until she passed away at the age of 82. And I can tell you right now, I would be banging the drum if that was my mom. I mean, wow. Only thing worse than having your elderly mother go missing is a child missing. Because her own mother is close to Nancy Guthrie's age, but now even she is feeling like hope is starting to fade with the lack of developments. And I don't have hope. Here's where I'm at with that. I believe that they could solve this. Do I hope or think that they're going to recover Nancy Guthrie? No. I really don't. I lived in Phoenix. I lived in a rural part of Phoenix. And unless there's a trail and people are hiking, there's so much space out in the desert that, like I said, if there's not a trail, you're not just going to go walking in the desert. People aren't just walking around. And if somebody drove out to a lonely spot in the desert, which there's tons, and there's animals. And in the wintertime, even though it's warmer there, it's wintertime, if they did leave her, there's not going to be much left. I mean, they might find some, and I'm not trying to be crude, but they might find some scattered skeletal remains. But at this point, if they put her, where nobody could find her and it's off a beaten path or trail, at this point, there's probably not much left. So I don't know that they're going to bring her back to the family, which is horrible, but I'm hoping that the biological evidence that they did get from the house is enough to lead them, even with, genetic genealogy. We don't know what happened in the house. And, one of my motives, strong motive of like a burglary gone wrong, is that Miss Nancy got scrappy. And if she scratched the assailant, and these guys are smart enough to know that they covered up, and, if they had a signal scrambler, which is, one of the latest developments, they did scramble Wi-Fi or turn off Wi-Fi in the area during this time, then they're smart enough to know that if she scratched him or them, that she then has the evidence, the DNA that is certainly going to link them. And that could be why they took her. And, so I don't know that there is a lack of developments. We're waiting, and we certainly don't know what the FBI knows. And I'm not sure if Sheriff Nanos, I think the only thing Sheriff Nanos is good at is maybe stumping for a political nomination. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be reelected. I could probably bet my paycheck that he's not going to get reelected. So I hope he's enjoying his 15 minutes now, but I think he's pretty worthless, if you ask me. I believe in his team. I believe in the sheriff's office as a whole and the law enforcement that are dedicated and working on this, but I certainly do not have faith in Sheriff Nanos. I don't think he has any working experience in really crime fighting. And I even promised myself I wasn't going to go down that road today, but that's all I'll say. So experts familiar with forensic investigations say that the early days of a case are crucial, and the longer she remains missing, the lower the chances of finding her alive, especially given the 84-year-old's health problems. It's not that interest is waning so much as it is hope is waning. And it's very, very interesting how I think that people are really afraid to say, people say that they don't believe that Nancy is alive anymore, but they say it in a really tender, gentle way. And I'm sympathetic as well, completely. But I think it's because the family is who they are, and nobody wants to see the family hurt. But anyone who's literally sitting there on day 36 and thinks she's alive, I think that they're just being kind, and we all want to be kind to the family. But and I hope that Nancy, if she did pass, that she passed quickly. I hope she didn't suffer any more that she had to, and that's absolutely my wish. So, but not all is lost. And this is Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic analysis. I think he's the one that does the show Body Bags. I think he's at CrimeCon this year. He explained that even with the lack of updates, law enforcement is still working the case and following tips that could lead to answers. A month from an investigative standpoint is not a long time, Morgan added, noting that he doesn't think this is anywhere close to a cold case. It just seems like a long time to those that are not on the inside, that are not working the case, and don't have access to the data. And I agree. I think that there's going to be any day now that there could be a statement. Brian Enton has not left. He has not left Tucson because I think he knows that it could be any day that we get some word that something has broken, and law enforcement are just keeping their cards close to their chest. Hello, Rocco Love F6U. Hello. I believe the motive is retaliation, which is why all the other motives fall apart. That I actually can open up. I did a PowerPoint in my last, I'll pull that up here. I have 5 motives. And retaliation falls in targeted abduction, for sure. And there's another one that I actually had some people leave messages like, you better be careful, because unfortunately, retaliation is also one of the motives, murder for hire, which is, I put moderate potential, but it's probably low potential. But Dr. Gary Brucato, he was on the interview room with Chris McDonough over the weekend, and he is a co-author of the book, The New Evil. He and Dr. Michael H. Stone, who's deceased now, they co-wrote the book. And let me just say I'm unavailable. And the number 10 personality of the rank of a psychopathic features that are marked, and I'm not sure what that means, so I'm not even going to try to act like I know what this means, but murders show malice aforethought, and basically it's somebody who someone's in the way, they are in the way of them getting something, and then specifically targeted abduction, organized and targeted, possibly based on a conflict, fixation, obsession, or revenge. So you're absolutely right, Rocco. Definitely could be retaliation. You don't know, if you run across somebody and it's, the wrong day, the wrong person, you say the wrong thing, even, not even realizing it, it absolutely could be. And, was it a targeted abduction? I don't know. I don't know that they wanted to take her. I almost feel like if we could have something between burglary gone wrong and a targeted abduction, where the emotions of a targeted abduction, of the emotions of a conflict, a fixation or obsession, or revenge or retaliation, like Rocco said. Okay, sorry about that. If we could have those emotions with, you know, the kidnapping. I'm gonna have to turn this off, so hold on. I know my husband is picking up my grandkids. Let me ask him to text. My grandson is my special little heart, and he lives with us, and he's getting picked up right now. Okay, so kidnap for ransom, that's not, no, I don't want to talk about that. It's targeted abduction and burglary gone wrong, because I'm not sure that there was anything in the house that somebody was really trying to get, at least that we've been told. But, you know, I do feel strongly that there could absolutely be some emotion for the reason why they were there at the house. So if we could figure out what's a hybrid between a burglary gone wrong, which again, it's organized and targeted burglary based on first or secondhand knowledge of the location or what's inside the location. A reconnaissance may occur prior. Burglars get in and get out quickly, most likely when the owners are not home, may have run into a conflict with Nancy and ended up with her hurt or deceased, which I think that's probably what happened. I don't know that anybody was really planning on taking her out of the house. I think that if she got scrappy, that she had to be removed because she probably had DNA under her little cute little fingernails. I think that they probably did panic and leave with Nancy, or you know, or they were taking Nancy to punish somebody, and that could be the retaliation. You know, who are they punishing? If they're like, okay, I'm going to go get Nancy. I know that Nancy is the mother of these people. These are the people I'm trying to hurt. I'm trying to terrify, harm, get back at, retaliate, have a conflict with. The best thing I can do is go get mama. I'm going to go get mama out of the house. But that seems like a stretch to me. That feels like a stretch. And believe me, I've gone back and forth a million times. And I mean, if people are agreeing or disagreeing, I'm agreeing or disagreeing with you as well, because that's why I'm saying I don't know. You know, the burglary gone wrong would make sense because there are gangs, there are theft rings. My motive number 5. Well, let's take a look at that. SATG, Ashley Banfield talked about this. She revealed this potential motive in her podcast earlier this week. That's called the South American Theft Groups, SATG. They've come to the US from Chile or Colombia, usually on like tourist visas, and then they overstay, and they're highly targeted. They are sophisticated. They use the signal scramblers that we've seen. They use the burner car or the burner phones, rental cars, encrypted apps, and they do recon prior, and they are targeting higher end homes. They like taking pictures of themselves, and they actually post a lot on social media like Instagram and Facebook. They post pictures of themselves with designer bags, Louis Vuitton, etc. And they like to brag about it. But they typically, at this point, do not or have not hurt the owners or kidnapped them. And they typically will try to go in when the owner is not there. However, the MO of these type of groups, and this is just an example because there are actually a lot of groups that are forming and being noted in different states in the US. SATG is in at least 20 states at this time, and Arizona was not one of them, but very well could be because it's so close to the border, which it makes sense that they are. But these type of groups are starting to escalate. I don't know if maybe there is competition within the groups, initiations, if you want to be part of us, they might be trying to see who can get the biggest loot, the biggest stash, the most, more often, one-upping each other, or initiations. You need to do this in order to be initiated into the group. So those type of things can absolutely happen. And so while their typical MO up to this point has not been to hurt a homeowner, it's not to say that they can't. And because they are sophisticated, and it was this type of a group, was there, again, some sort of evidence if she scratched somebody or she bit them, blah, 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 then they could have opted to take her, because kidnapping is actually not in their MO either. It's to get in and get out. And we know that there was 42 minutes spent in her home, and we weren't sure exactly what that was. So when we look at, the burglary gone wrong, the time frame that they spent in the house actually matches burglary gone wrong more, because if they had insider knowledge that there was something in the home, right now silver is going for a very high price. Say that they got information somewhere that this home had silver, and they were going to take, I'm just speculating, could be whatever. Maybe there was art. Maybe she had a lot of art or something that they wanted. Again, the MO is to get in and get out. But if she woke up, we know she wore hearing aids, but what if she had to go to the bathroom and she runs into them and she gets scrappy, like, get out of my house. I'm not sure if anybody watches the podcast Surviving the Survivor. Joel has his mother who is 82, and actually Joel's mother, Carm, is a psychologist. And Carm, because he asked her, what is an 82-year-old? How are they going to respond if they wake up and there's somebody in their bedroom? And Carm actually said, as an 82-year-old woman, that their reflexes are slower, and it could be that they don't, freak out. It could take a minute for their mind to absorb what's happening. So, would she have had enough time to just get angry and go, whatever they're holding, put that down, that's mine, get the hell out of here, and scratch them or punch them, and then they punched her? Again, speculation. But I think that while they may not have been choosing to take her, I think that they had to take her. That whoever's there, even though they're dumb, they look like a dodo, they might be just smart enough to know that they had to take her. And then, of course, I have the main one, which was the first one, was the Kidnap for Ransom, which is, again, an organized professional group with a financial motive, which whoever's done this so far, it has not been identified as a financial motive at all, because nobody's come forward. I thought for sure when the Guthries posted that $1 million, I'm thinking, wow, his goose is cooked. Whoever Walmart Wrangler is, I think I even said he's probably pooping blue Smurf turds right now, because the noose is closing in. So again, kidnappers get in and out very quickly, and they typically leave a note. So Kidnap for Ransom is a business. We don't see it in the US, though. It's very, very, very rare. And they make themselves very available, call soon and call often to negotiate their money. And they're going to reach directly to the family. They don't want attention. They don't want the cops involved. They certainly are not going to send a letter to the TMZ and the TV station. They're going to keep a low profile. They're going to keep their hostage happy. Well, not happy, but alive. And actually, they're and I cannot remember the details of it, but there was a kidnap for ransom plot that they took an older person, and they knew that this person had medical issues, and they actually hired a nurse to be there around the clock to take care of this person and keep them alive until they could make the exchange. And they did make the exchange. So I don't know. But then I always say, in 2026, you cannot commit the perfect crime. There's no way you can commit the perfect crime. There's too many digital thumbprints. And, you know, while the FBI is probably going through cell phone, they're looking at cars, there's probably just so much volume of license plate readers, even though there wasn't any in the immediate area. There are license plate readers, I'm sure, that they're looking at from either direction that somebody could have taken in or out of that area. So believe me, at that time of night, they're looking at license plate readers probably from any way that anybody could have gotten into that neighborhood. And they're looking at cell phones that, you know, could be in the area. And it's literally a needle in a haystack when you think about, you know, figuring out which phone numbers belong in that area and are normal for that area, and then finding the one phone number that could have been used once or twice even that didn't belong in that area. So, I mean, this is a really big job, but they may have more. I mean, we don't know what camera footage Nest and Google has actually gotten them. There could be more. They could have, you know, they could all be getting ready to, you know, the FBI could be getting ready to have some sort of celebration pizza party later this week because they're that close to getting the guy. So I've put very low potential on kidnap for ransom just because there were all those hoax ransom notes and then burglary gone wrong. I feel like it's leading more to burglary gone wrong, but I feel like there definitely could be some of the MO that goes with a targeted abduction. I do feel like there could be definitely emotions, conflict, obsession, revenge, retaliation. I really do feel like that's for sure. Murder for hire is on the table, although, you know, why? What's the motive for that? And, you know, the family's been clear, so I don't know. I probably should put this as low potential. And then SATG, I put it as low because it's hard to say. They typically don't hurt the owner or take the owner or kidnap them. So I still have them as low, but we don't know. They, you know, they don't. I'm sure the people are aware of, you know, other potentials and are already looking at that. So here is the Mirror. Nancy Guthrie laid a suspect, someone close, as neighbors report weird issue. Nancy Guthrie remains missing after 34 days, and this was updated yesterday. So we're now on day 36 with no suspects named in the case. Nancy Guthrie remains missing after her disappearance 36 days ago, with law enforcement still desperately searching for her. And we know that. Let's see if we can figure out capture the. Despite the release of images of a man who was captured tampering with her doorbell camera in the moments before she vanished, nobody has been caught. I'm trying to find how they know the suspect could be really close. With few confirmed leads publicly revealed, experts say investigators often first look at the people closest to a victim, including those living nearby. And I have heard somebody talk about some neighbor, but it hasn't gone very far. During a recent discussion about the case, journalist Brian Enton asked whether someone living near Guthrie could be responsible. Enton asked on his recent YouTube channel, "Have you thought about whether the person could be someone very close in proximity to Nancy's house?" Retired FBI agent Maureen O'Connell said, "I absolutely do, because it's happened so many times. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's more often than not that somebody that's really close. Could this be a neighbor? Yes. So even though they may be a person in the neighborhood, they're going to be looking for patterns." Federal agents were seen returning to Guthrie's neighborhood this week as the investigation continues. Agents were also seen speaking with several neighbors on Thursday, March 5th, as they continue canvassing the area. And I think at this point, we know now what they were asking the neighbors. They were asking the neighbors if they lost internet or cell service during that time. And a lot of them said yes. When they look back at their history, yes. David Muir paused his show to acknowledge the case this week with the ABC host who previously covered the horrific situation, telling his audience the search took a new turn. Tonight, there is news in the Nancy Guthrie case, he said. Detectives in Tucson are back in her neighborhood, going door to door, asking neighbors if they had any Wi-Fi lapses the night before Nancy was last seen. As he pointed out, authorities are not revealing their motivation behind asking, but 3 homeowners confirmed the probe to NBC News. One investigative journalist for News Nation, Brian Enton, noted a neighbor told his Ring camera history is mysteriously not available the night Nancy disappeared. On Thursday, March 5th, the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI went door to door, interviewing residents and asking whether they had observed anything unusual with their internet connections. Several homeowners in the area told NBC News that agents who came to their residences Thursday to ask whether they experienced any disruptions or problems with their internet service on the night Nancy vanished. Residents told the news outlet that agents indicated many people living in that neighborhood reported experiencing glitches with their internet that evening. Additionally, residents said that when investigators visited their homes yesterday, they also requested any video footage from January 11th, which looks like when Walmart Wrangler did his recon. Authorities have not confirmed whether investigators were examining anything related to January 11th, nor have they revealed why they asked homeowners about that date. I think we know. The 3 homeowners who spoke with NBC News on Thursday said they were either asleep or away from home when Nancy disappeared. So I don't know. We'll have to see what comes of, the cameras. Looks like they're still. Elizabeth Smart's 3-word declaration to Savannah Guthrie as search for mom nears. Elizabeth Smart, who was 14 when she was snatched from her bedroom and held captive for 9 months. Now she's urging the Guthrie family to never give up hope. Kidnapping survivor Elizabeth Smart, who was held captive for months after being abducted at age 14, has reached out with a message of hope to Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie as her 84-year-old mother Nancy remains missing after nearly a month. It's over a month now. The Guthrie family has endured weeks of anguish since Nancy was kidnapped from her home. Let's see. Smart's message comes as the Daily Mail reports Savannah has made the difficult decision to return to work on today, even as she acknowledged the odds of finding her mother alive are growing slimmer by the day. In a video posted to Instagram on February 24th. All right. They're obviously making me go to the bottom because they're not telling me what Elizabeth said. All right. Appearing on the Lady Gang podcast with hosts Kelty Knight, Jack Vanek, and Becca Tobin, Smart acknowledged the grim statistical reality facing the Guthrie family. I know, like what law enforcement will tell you. If a person disappears and they're not found within the first 24 to 48 hours, their chances of survival drop down to almost 0%. It's almost like they're unalive, she said. However, Smart refused to abandon hope. But I just always feel like we can't give up, because if that was the mentality around my case, then I wouldn't be here today. She says, I did come back, and there are other victims who do come back. And so even though every passing day feels like we're losing more and more hope, or it seems like it's less likely that she'll be found, I think we just have to remind ourselves that we can never give up. And, Elizabeth Smart was found 9 months later, and her story was still alive. I mean, I think they were obviously still looking for her, and they did find her. So, I mean, you can't give up hope. It's just considering the age of Nancy, and we know that she was wounded prior. I'm just looking at some of these other stories. This guy, there's a neighbor talking about panic rooms. I don't know that that necessarily will help you if somebody's already, standing over you when you're in your bed. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now. We're just kind of waiting. And, again, my main thing is I'm hoping that the Guthrie family take this time. At this point, they were good stewards. They sequestered themselves away during, the busiest time. They made themselves available. And now I think that the best and healthiest thing that they could do, honestly, is, try to get some semblance of normal. And while it's not normal, what they're going through right now, I think that for their mental health, that they need to get back to work or do something other than just sitting around the house, drowning in those feelings. It's the only way they're going to heal. And, I don't know how people are able to go on. I would go nutty if I didn't have closure. I would go nutty. I guess I don't know how people handle that. And unfortunately, it does happen. If you're just joining us now, I played a segment with News Nation interviewing Brad Bradley, who is the brother of Amy Bradley, who's been missing. He mentioned it's coming up on 28 years. And their family lost her on a cruise and had no evidence, no cameras, and literally, stayed on the island as long as they could, but they ended up having to get on a plane and go home without their daughter. I mean, they've been going through it. And I do think that it's interesting. And I wish Brad Bradley took the time to say that he wishes that there was some, equal focus on other cases. The fact that the FBI offered $100,000 for the return of Nancy Guthrie or information leading to the arrest of the abductor, but they've only offered $25,000 on Amy Bradley. And he mentioned that there was a benefactor who had put $100,000 on as a reward, and it always brings out tips whenever you raise the story. And I'm sure that the Netflix documentary, brought the story back out to everybody again. Tips always come up, and there's somebody who absolutely knows what happened to Amy Bradley. But it'd be nice if they had $100,000 reward on Amy Bradley. I think everybody would like to know and at least give them some closure. 28 years, and I think his parents are still alive. Parents are still alive after 28 years and do not know where their daughter is, and can only imagine, the fear that they've gone through for sure with, what has been suspected of has happened to Amy. So, prayers for that family and prayers for a lot of families. This is something that, we need to be talking more. I like the show Derek Levasseur. He does Detective Perspective, and he only does missing or unsolved cases is what he does. And I definitely think that we should be looking at more of those because, keep the stories alive, keep, any help that you can for the families, because somebody knows, and somebody knows in this case too. All righty. So just once again, I am Courtney C. I have had a 27-year career in the media, and now I am focusing on Crime Crunchies. I thank you all so very much for joining me here today. Please remember to subscribe. It's absolutely free. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. I will be at CrimeCon. Looking forward to meeting some folks at CrimeCon. And I appreciate all of the crunchies. crunchy, crunchy, crunchy. So I will let you guys go, but look for me again very soon with more live content. And thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.